Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Nol FM, to another live stream on the Novak Weekly YouTube channel. It is our year-end holiday special, and I'm really looking forward to doing this. I'm your host, Marko Milenković, and as you guys already know, and if you ask where is Mario, well, he'll join us in like 5 to 10 minutes. Hopefully, something came up and he had to take care of it, so apologies for that. This wouldn't be that special of an episode if we didn't have a guest. That's why we made sure to do just that. For the second time, guest starring on our pod is the deputy editor of Novak Books. You can already see that on the screen, but I wanted to repeat that. And Mr. Novak Stat Guy, as I like to call him, my friend Jay Schroder. Welcome back, man. It's so great to have you again.
Thanks for having me, Marco, and a happy New Year to you. I think we're a day early here, but probably the last time we'll speak until 2024. So
yeah, that's true. Happy New Year to you. But Merry Christmas. I know it's like five days later, but yeah.
One Christmas, we got one to go, right?
That's true. That's true. We have our Serbian Orthodox Christmas in like 7 days. So nice 2-week period, 2-week holiday period.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, as you guys might have seen on our social media or on YouTube thumbnail or whatever, today we'll be ranking Novak's best ever seasons. We'll mention 10 of his best ones, but we'll focus more and discuss his best 5 best seasons. So stay with us, and of course join us in the comments. We would really like to hear your opinions on what do you think is his best season and why, more importantly. Now, before we go into this, I just wanted to say something. You guys know that at the beginning of each episode, I ask you to like, share, and all those stuff, and I will do that later. But first, I wanted to thank each and every one of you for your help and support. We have actually managed to achieve all of our goals for this year. When we started this in August, we wanted to hit 1,000 followers on both Twitter and Instagram, as well as 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And guess what? We actually did it. I mean, I can't believe it, but we actually did it. So that's why I wanted to use this opportunity to say massive thank you to all of you. And I wish Mario was here live because I had kind of short message for him, but I'll say it, regardless. I just wanted to, thank him for accepting my invitation this past summer and agreeing to be my co-host. There's no way I could have done this without him. So thank you, Mario. I'll repeat that again when he joined us. One more thing. Even though I am thankful and love all you guys, as I said, I also wanted to give a special shout out to some people, our friends who've been with us from the start and from whom we received a massive support. Those people are, of course, Julie, Pavi, Puneet, Jay, who's here with me tonight, as well as my friend Lorenzo from Instagram. He runs Novak Djokovic, Novak.Djokovic 98 currently. Instagram page. It's a great page. Please follow it if you're not already. These guys have been following us from the get-go, liking our posts, sharing our pods, and I am forever thankful for the love and kind of promotion that we got from them. So thank you, and I love you guys. Thank you, and I love you, Jay.
You bet, buddy.
Now let's do this. Guys, before Mario is still not here with us, I'm really hoping that he will join us in like 5 minutes. I didn't want to start this ranking process or whatever without him, so I just wanted to hear Jay's opinion because we didn't have him on the pod in like, how long has it been, like month and a half, maybe?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was right after the Paris Masters, so whenever that was, maybe.
Well, that was beginning of almost 2 months, because that, I think Paris ended on like November 5th or 6th. So yeah, 7 8 weeks.
6th. So I think we did a chat on the 6th. So yes, it's been like almost 2 months. Yeah, wow, time flies.
I mean, I can't believe it, honestly. I thought it was like a month, maybe 5 weeks, but damn, man. Okay, I just wanted to hear your take, your opinions of how Novak ended the season. Are you satisfied? I mean, you and I exchanged messages and opinions and whatever on a weekly basis, but I don't know if some of our viewers who are with us live or who'll be watching this tomorrow or in the upcoming days, I just want for them to hear what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you could ask for anything else. I mean, when I found out that Novak was not going to go and play the Asia swing, I was, pretty much convinced that Carlos was going to finish the year number one, and I was going to be really upset by that because I felt like having 3 slams under your belt and a fourth runner up was more than enough to warrant being the world number one. But obviously, he was able to play the Indian Wells Miami Sunshine double earlier in the year, and given where he is in his career, it's totally understandable coming off of the U.S. Open, not wanting to travel and spend some more time with his family. So, given that he was only going to play Paris and the ATP Finals, he won them both, and Carlos kind of ran out of steam there in the second last stage of the season, and it was also looking really bleak there when he dropped that set to Hurkacz in his third round robin.
Sure.
He needed to win that in straight sets to kind of control his own destiny, and so he had to rely on Jannik to come up with the goods. And that was
Jannik saved us.
That was a thrilling match too. I think it went 3 sets if I remember correctly, and it was looking a little bit perilous there in that third set. So he came up big, and then to win in the fashion that he did against Carlos and Jannik in those last, the semifinal and the final. You can't ask for much more. I know, especially the Serbian community is probably a little bit disappointed with how the Davis Cup went down.
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So
that's an understatement.
Yeah, but all told, I still think he played well. He was, he had three match points there against Sinner, and he probably would like to have that one shot. I think it was maybe the second match point where he was in a long rally and kind of chose to, I think he hit a backhand right back at Sinner, who was kind of right at the net, and Sinner was able to handle that. If he'd maybe tried to go to line or lob or something there, anyway, hindsight is 2020, but he played pretty well. He looked solid. He looked very good against Norrie, and maybe it was just running out of steam a little bit there against Jannik, but he was solid. He was right there. So I think all considered, phenomenal end of the season. Great way to capitalize on what was just a special year. I don't think anybody could have expected him to play quite as well as he did.
You're if you ask me, you're kind of spot on, because for him to do and achieve all that he's done and achieved this year, it's incredible. The guy turned 36 years old, so there's that. I know a lot of people see him and a couple of other great athletes that we have in the world today, but I really don't think that people sometimes realize how actually impressive that is. Because if I go back 10 to 15 years, because I can't go back longer than that, because I was a kid at that point in time. If I go back 10 to 15 years, for example, you know that football, our European rule of football is my number one sport, as is Mario's. Most of the guys who I watched growing up were basically done or retired in their early 30s. We have people right now, athletes, and with Novak in the front as a front runner in their late 30s, doing things that, like I said, 10 to 15 years ago seemed unimaginable. How can a guy who's in Novak's case 15, 16, 17 years older than his biggest competitors, managing to do it maybe not week in and week out like it was the case in the previous years, but let's say month in, month out. So yeah, extremely impressive. And we have Mario here.
Hi.
Yeah, we don't need to stall back. we don't need to stall the time. We can just jump in to our main topic, main focus in today's live stream. But hey, buddy, it's great to have you. Hope everything is fine.
Yeah. It's fine. Everything is fine. Honestly, I'm super happy because the new tennis season has already begun, and actually tomorrow is going to start the new season also for Novak Djokovic. And so 2023 has not even finished, and we are already super invested in tennis again. And there's talk about the short of season, but me as just a person who follows tennis and enjoys it, I'm happy to have live tennis again.
Yeah, there's been a lot of chatter about kind of overhauling the calendar and big changes potentially coming. I don't know if you guys saw that article in The Athletic by Matt.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of it's a microcosm of the cluttered calendar that we're doing our year-end 2023 podcast, and the 24 season's already underway. So
sure.
It's great for the fans; they love it, and I don't really have a problem with it. But I do think there's some little tweaks, that could be made to improve things a little bit. So we can maybe talk about that later on. But interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, buddy, before you joined, I'm talking to you, Mario. I had a kind of prepared monologue or soliloquy. I already did it. So, but I also said that when you join us, I wanted to repeat a certain part, and that is that because you probably saw that we achieved all of our goals that we set up, this year. 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, 1,000 followers on both Instagram and Twitter. I just wanted to, thank you for accepting my, invitation this past summer and agreeing to be my co-host. And I just wanted to say that there's no way I could have done this without you. So thank you, buddy. And I'm really looking forward to, doing a lot more, pods and project with you in the future.
No, sure. For me, it's been a pleasure to be with you, and I'm very happy. I'm grateful for all we've done, and also for the people who have followed us. And I've always followed tennis regardless of the names of the players, just because I love the game. But sure, I always said, and I will keep going saying this, that I'm very grateful to be able to share my opinions and talk about Djokovic as a great champion he is, and I'm super happy to be involved in this project. So I'm just grateful, and I am the one who has to to thank you for all of this.
Thank you, buddy, for those kind words. Okay, let's do this. As I told Jay before you joined us, I was thinking about, the way how we do this, and I think that we should mention like 10 of his greatest seasons, but we should focus and discuss more in details the 5 of his best ones. So I don't know if you guys agree, with that, but maybe we should just mention numbers from 6th to 10th place. See if there are any discrepancies or disagreements. If let's say Mario has a different year, different season,
that's difficult. 6 to 10.
No, we don't have to. No, we don't have to.
Okay.
We don't have to put them in order. So this is 6, 7. Just,
okay. Not because
like
would it be too difficult, because it's super difficult.
Exactly.
I'm
That's
not
why I
prepared.
came
I
up.
did my homework for season 6 through 10. So.
That's why I said just mention them. Though the seasons that would be in that kind of category, and then we'll discuss. We'll go from number 5 to 1 in order. Let's say we do number 5. I will say my, Mario would say your, Jay his, and if we see that we all agree, we would just give our opinion, why, because he won this or that and things like that. If we disagree, which would be more fun for both us and the people who will be watching this. Okay, let's do this. If I ask you, let's say from number 6 to 10, like the other 5 best seasons, which ones would you put in that category?
2008.
Let's go, Mario. Jay, let's go with you first.
Yeah.
Just off the top of my head, maybe there's some recency bias here, but I'm guessing 2020 it was a COVID year. It was kind of a shortened season. We didn't get to play all this, all the slams. Wimbledon was canceled. We missed, 5 months of the season. But I think that season is a little bit maybe underestimated in Novak's career arc. I think he had a 26 match winning streak. He won the Australian Open. And then despite a 4 or 5 month layoff, whatever it was, he picked right back up at the Cincinnati Masters. Granted, they played it in New York. They played it at the U.S. Open, but it was still the Western and Southern Open. And he wasn't feeling very well in that tournament. He had some neck problems he was getting treatment on, and looked completely gassed a couple of times. I remember the match against Bautista Agut in particular. I think it was the semifinal. He looked like dead on his feet, and it was a crazy, crazy match. I mean, there were 3 breaks in the third set late, and then he won the tiebreaker 7-0 and was just blasting winners everywhere. But anyway, that 2020 season, a 26 match winning streak, that's pretty impressive. And that was kind of I think the first season where Novak had really made, huge noticeable strides in his serve and becoming just a more offensive minded player. So that kind of marked the turning point in kind of the second stage of his career. So I would, that's one that would just come to mind in that 6 through 10 range. As Mario mentioned, obviously you'd have to include 2008 just because he won his first slam. And I think he won another match.
Surprisingly, I didn't put it in.
No, is that right?
Okay. I mean, you guys know that I have the affinity for firsts.
Yes.
Every time Novak wins something or wins against for the first time, I usually put it, very high on the list. I didn't put 2008 or I'm going to list you my, 5 seasons, from 6 to 10, not in particular order, just 5. 2012, 2013, 14, 18, and 19. I was reluctant. I was actually thinking about putting even maybe 2018 in the top 5, just because of how much, Jay and I, you talked about that, how much it meant for, and I spoke to a lot of people afterwards. Tony Doshin was one of the guys who said it. That season, the second part of that season was maybe even the turning point in Novak's career and his trajectory of achieving everything that he achieved in the upcoming years up until now, and solidifying 5 years afterwards his status as the greatest tennis player of all time. So because of that, the systematics and things like that, I was kind of thinking about putting in top 5, but I still put it in the other categories. 2012, 13, 14, again, really great seasons. For example, I made a list and literally listed all the major stats. Most of them are from you, so thank you, buddy, and thank you for the Novak books, guys. If you haven't purchased your copy, I will leave a link to the websites, both Novak Djokovic Foundation, which has a special limited edition, and to Novak Books web shop, which has a, let's call them regular, but they're still amazing. I have them, Jay have them. You probably saw them on our social media. We used to share them a lot, and we still do. So in 2012, that Australian Open run was, in my opinion, the greatest Novak Djokovic's Grand Slam run. He had David Ferrer, if I remember correctly, in the quarterfinals. He was ranked number 5 in the world at that point in time. Then he played Andy Murray in 5 hours semi, and a day afterwards he probably played the best Grand Slam final in history and the longest Australian Open final against Rafa Nadal, which he won. He also played finals in French Open and US Open, semis at Wimbledon. Unfortunately, came 4th at the Olympics, didn't win the medal. That still hurts me. You guys know how much I love him when he represents, our country. Year-end number 1, 75-12 record, so that's 86.2%. Winning record against top 10 players, 70.6. And he won 3 Masters 1000 titles, beating two Master 1000 titles, beating Rafa Nadal in Monte Carlo, Andy Murray in Shanghai, and he also won the ATP finals in London by beating Roger in the final. So that was an impressive year.
Classic match. We should mention that it was a straight setter, but it was an awesome and everyone remembers the match point backhand sliding pass that he hit there in London. So it's a great match. It was a great way to finish off that season. Yeah, I mean the margins of his level from 2011 and 2015, obviously those stick out, but he wasn't that much different in 12, 13, and 14. All three of those seasons, he had great seasons. It was just a couple of shortcomings in some big matches that prevented those from being the kind of upper tier top 3-5 seasons of Novak's career. So yeah, pointing out that whole run, from 2011 through 2016. I mean, amazing level from Novak. That was, his prime, his kind of first prime. We have kind of like two distinct periods of Novak's career, the 2011 through 2016 period, and then the resurgence in the back half of 2018. And we're still in it, miraculously. And I hope it continues for another 3-4 years, but we'll see.
He said 2 days ago that, he would like to play in his mid-40s. Which a lot of people, disagree with me, maybe even made fun of me when I said that a couple of months ago. I told you guys, he's not going to allow Andy Murray to have more gold medals than him at the Olympics. But all jokes aside, no, I was really pleased to hear that, because I really think that he will be able to win things even when he reaches the years of 40, 41. I don't want to talk about afterwards, but listen, I know that if he feels like it, there's no need for us to doubt him.
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things about tennis is that it's, obviously there's a certain level of physicality and movement that's required to be at the very top level of the game, but it's such a skill-based game that, I don't think we should be. It wasn't really like a decline in skills that ended Federer's career. It was health, and the way things have gone with Nadal here recently, it's the same thing. I think we have to take him pretty seriously, Nadal, in 2024, assuming there's some level of fitness and health, because his skill set is such that he'll still manage to be competitive even with a long layoff, And I think I absolutely agree with you. I think Novak is capable of still being highly competitive, well into his late 30s and possibly even into his 40s. I think there's things that he'll have to continue to do. I don't think it's in his best interest to grind from the baseline. And we've already, as I kind of hinted at earlier, that 2020 season, the improvement in his serve, that's going to have to continue in the late stage of his career. He's got to just continue to be more and more aggressive. You saw him kind of bulk up a little bit. He's going to have to kind of maintain that or even go bigger. We saw that with Federer, being super aggressive, coming to the net all the time, going big, forehand, Novak's forehand. It's just unbelievable how big that shot is now at this stage in his career. Novak is a much more skilled player today than at any point in his career. I'm not saying he's a better player necessarily, and we can talk about this when we compare the seasons, but he's a more skilled tennis player today than at any point in his career by a comfortable margin.
Yeah, I agree with that. And in terms of mental strength and all that aspect, it's much higher than it was in 2011, 2015, when he was still, especially 2011, because he kind of came on the scene that year. He was still young, unexperienced, and all those things. But to see him in 2023 and going forward, I really believe that this is something that Mario and I talked a lot. And I usually ask our guests, whoever it is on our pod, do they think that going forward, Novak might win matches more on his mentality and mental strength and mental game than on his physical? Because if we compare physicality, of course, he's not the same player when he was when he was 24 or 28. That's a given. That's natural. Nobody can fight Father Time in that. But I really believe that not only him, but every great athlete in today's world compensate that kind of lack of physicality compared to their physical prime with their mental peak.
Yeah, I think I'm going to make kind of a basketball analogy here, like with somebody.
Please do that.
So I'm a big sports fan, American sports, but I think like LeBron James might be kind of an interesting parallel here, where LeBron in his physical prime, let's say 24 to 29 or something like that, was just so explosive. Just could jump out of the gym, could just blaze by anybody in the open court, and just got a lot of easy baskets, at the rim, with just pure athleticism. Novak had that too. I mean, if you watch highlights of him in 2012, 2011, 2015, just flying around the court, it's awesome to see. Like there's a point at the tour finals against Wawrinka where I think Stan, if I remember correctly, he hits a forehand cross court, and I swear, like every time I see the highlight, I can't fathom that he would even get close to the ball. And not only does he get there, he hits a winner. Like it's just insane. I'll find the clip maybe and put it on Twitter later today. But his movement, 8-10 years ago was just off the charts, and it's like a LeBron. LeBron is still a high level talented player now because he's stronger. He knows the game. He knows the ins and outs. He knows how to draw whistles. He knows post moves. His footwork's better. His shot is improved. All these types of things are parallels to Novak. His volleys have improved dramatically. His spot serving is just insanely good. Second serve has more bite, more movement. The forehand is bigger than it's ever been. So when you say he's physically different, it's not necessarily worse. I mean, he's just more offensive. Like he has to be. He's not going to just fly around the baseline and out move people the way that he could before. So he has to rely more on his skill set and being offensive, and touch, finesse, all these types of things. All that should improve in your as you play more and more with more and more experience, and so. He can still get better. He's not going to improve the movement. It's just not going to happen, but his skill level can still improve. And he's shown us over and over again that he's not going to leave any stone, unturned. He's going to strive to continue to do that and add more little pieces to his game. So.
Yeah, that's true. Let me continue to, kind of list the factors why I put in all those years. So 2013, 7 calendar titles, won the Aussie Open, beating Andy Murray in the final. Again, played finals at Wimbledon and US Open, semis at the French Open. Unfortunately, finished the year as number 2. 89.1% was the season winning percentage. Again, as I said a couple of minutes before, won the ATP finals and also beat Nadal in the said ATP finals, as well as Monte Carlo. For his first.
Two things I'll mention about 2013. He finished the year 18-0, won his last 18 matches of the year, so that's something. And then we can't go through 2013 without mentioning some of the matches. Well, specifically the fourth round match at the Australian Open. You mentioned him beating Murray in the final, but that's the best fourth round match I've ever seen. I mean that. I would rank that, when they do Novak's greatest matches, the 2013 Australian Open fourth round against Wawrinka is just unbelievable match, just insane. Great level, unbelievable level, great contrast of styles, really good stuff. So.
Now, do people see why I call him the Novak stat guy? My buddy Jay knows literally everything, and I'll announce something at the end of the episode, a project that him and I will be doing in 2024. So make sure to stay with us. Okay, next season 2014 that I put on the list, again 7 titles, won Wimbledon against Federer. That, in my opinion, is probably in the when we talk strictly about tennis, probably their best final that they played in Wimbledon. They played it 3 times. In my opinion, 2014 was by far the best. I literally remember when I was, where I was, with whom I was watching that game. It stuck in my brain. And again, just an absolute fantastic match.
Yeah, the 2014 Wimbledon final is like it's like the 2018 Wimbledon semifinal,
yeah.
in the sense that it just kind of changed the trajectory of Novak's career. I think he dropped 4 or 5 of his last 6 slam finals. So mentally, I mean, I think that's the main reason he had brought Boris Becker on, at the beginning of the season, or maybe at the very end of 2013, was to try to shore up some of the mental side of things. And he'd lost some heartbreaking important matches up to that point. And when he the level between the 2014 Wimbledon final and the 2015 Wimbledon final, to me, is about the same. In fact, those matches are like very, very similar. Very, very close sets for the most part. The 2014 match, really could have been exactly like the 2015 match, where Novak, he should have closed that out in 4 sets. He was up a break, he's serving for it, and got a little tight. The very first point of that rally, he had like a easy forehand put away on a short ball, and he hits it long. And that changed everything. He got broken, and then mentally he was just kind of gone. He got broken a second time, lost that set. And then, it was that 5th set is like just so important in the storyline of his career, much the way that 2018 semifinal against Nadal played over 2 days was, just a turning point in his career. So worth mentioning.
Some other things from his 2014 season. Again, won the Sunshine Double. He beat Roger in Indian Wells and beat Rafa in Miami. He also beat Rafa in Rome. He won Paris-Bercy ATP finals, beating again Federer in the final. Was 5-0 and won all of his 5 hardcourt finals that year, and ended the year with record of 61 wins and 8 losses, which is 88.4%. So we have 2 years left, 2 seasons left in mine, 6 to 10 categories. And those are, again, I mentioned it a couple of minutes ago, 2018. We said it already, might even be the most important season of his career. He came in, recovering from the injury. He was ranked, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, I think 27th entering that year's Wimbledon.
Let's see, I'll pull it up.
I think it's 20 at lowest, I think 22nd. Maybe.
Yeah, his lowest rank of that season was actually at both Roland Garros and Queens. His ranking was his lowest 22.
22. Okay, so
he was ranked 21 in the world, but they had the Wimbledon formula back then for the seeding.
Yeah, it was 12th.
Seeded 12. Yeah, seeded 12. But yeah, the low point of that season, I think, was probably that loss to Cecchinato in the quarterfinal. I mean, you saw. I think everyone saw how distraught he was at the press conference afterwards, having lost a match to somebody that he feels like he should be able to beat. Shout out Cecchinato. He played great in that match. Good for him. Not taking anything away from him, but clearly I don't think Novak was happy with his level. And that's that famous quote where he says, I don't know if I'm going to play on grass. And I made sure we like highlighted that in the 2018 season book, because that was such a memorable quote and a turning point in his career.
Yeah. So as we said, of course, he won that Wimbledon, beating Kevin Anderson in the final. Jay already mentioned that extraordinary semis that he played against Rafa Nadal.
Great match.
Probably one of the best wins in his overall career. But I want to, of course, he won the U.S. Open afterwards, beating Del Potro in the final. But I wanted to
U.S. Open that year was like just unbelievable humidity, insanely hot, and I think that might have been only like the first or second year that they had the roof at Ash and Armstrong, and they had like all kinds of circulation problems. So even when they had the roof closed, it was like even hotter. It was brutal conditions, and the courts were really slow that year. I don't know if it was like the humidity or the whatever it was, but the courts were so slow that year. I remember that match, the final against Del Potro. It was a 3-setter, and it was like well over 3 hours, and it was just so tough to get a ball by anybody. You really had to grind. So he was physically. That was a good sign, that Novak was really back from like a physical stamina standpoint, and could go 3, 4, 5 hours if he needed to. So.
Yeah, some other hallmarks from his 2018 season that I didn't mention. He won his first ever title in Cincinnati, which made him the only player in tennis history to win all 9.
My favorite Masters titles of his career, because he beat Dimitrov and Cilic along the way, and those were the two they were the reigning champions in both 16 and 17. So he had to play both of them. He also played Raonic with that big serve. And there was some inclement weather, so he had to finish one match one day and play another match in the same day. And he also his ranking was so low that he didn't get the first round bye, so he had to play 6 matches to win the title. Every match went 3 sets, with the exception of the final against Federer, which he won 6-4, 6-4, I believe. And that was a very memorable win to finish off the set of 9.
Yeah, some other things from his 2018 season. He had the most top 10 wins that year on the ATP Tour. Finished the year number 1, and might have been my favorite stat from the Novak books, which again is Jay's contribution. His record post Wimbledon was 35-3, which is impressive to say the least. And that leaves us with his 2019 season: 5 calendar titles, 1 Aussie Open by smashing Rafa Nadal, demolishing that final, maybe his best ever Grand Slam final display against anybody who ever played, Murray, Rafa, Roger, and whoever. He also won Wimbledon. Again, that might have been the most memorable, only Novak, most memorable tennis match. Well, at least in the 21st century, I really can't go past that. Maybe matches in the 80s.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead, finish up there.
No. Go. What did you want to say?
You can't mention the 2019 Wimbledon final without breaking into like a profuse sweat. I mean, it's just unbelievably dramatic match. There's a great article. It was actually published on The Economist, but a portion of it is also on the Tennis Abstract blog. Tennis Abstract, I'll give a quick shout out to Jeff Sackman, like his
amazing website.
I mean, it's just you can't be a tennis fan or a tennis stat guy and not utilize his website. It's an amazing resource. Ultimate Tennis Statistics as well, very similar. It has some other features.
They're my go-to guys.
Very, very useful. Kind of saddens me that the ATP itself doesn't have something, similar that is a little bit more user friendly. But anyway, Jeff Sackman wrote a blog or an article for The Economist talking about the 2019 Wimbledon final, and he used some specific formula that showed that it was the most exciting, dramatic, slam final of all time. So, you can argue about the quality of the play or something like that, but as far as just the drama of that match, unsurpassed, just insane.
Yeah, I don't think that nothing will ever beat that, 40-15, that lady holding that finger up in the air. I mean, it's so memeable, if that's even a word.
Yeah.
We'll make it a word if it's not a thing already. But yeah,
definitely the highlight of that season for me. I'll never forget where I was, and just unbelievable match, obviously. And I feel like maybe the most important or consequential match of Novak's career. I mean, we can debate that or dispute that, but I just can't even imagine had he not won that match, how that changes the landscape of tennis and GOAT conversations, all those types of things. So it's like the ultimate feather in the Nole fam cap that we found a way to win that one. I say we.
Yeah, no, that's true. You have a point. Again, someone wrote here, Guru K, I think 2019 was a great year in terms of beating two of his biggest rivals in two statement wins. That win again over Rafa in Australia was definitely a statement win. Again, win against Roger is, as Jay already said, probably the most consequential title victory in the history of tennis. In my opinion, the tournament that ended Roger's aspiration when it comes to winning more Grand Slams and ultimately, having that GOAT title. It is debatable. I'm not saying that it's 100%. I'm 100% certain, but that's my take.
In retrospect, you're absolutely right. I mean, he never reached another Slam final. I mean, he did play pretty well in Australia in 2020.
He played the semis against Novak, right?
Yeah, he was a little. Had some like a leg niggle or some little tweak there that maybe he wasn't. There was no chance he was winning that tournament. So I kind of agree with you that his last hurrah was definitely the Wimbledon final there in 2019 from a Slam perspective.
I'm sure he still would have been not the man with the most Grand Slam titles, in my opinion, even if he got to 21, but still that win would have been heavy in all the world GOAT conversation, because of various reasons. So I feel like that if he managed to win that one, and then it's difficult to make in media's eyes and the fans' perception. Federer fell off from the GOAT status. So even if he ends with 21, and a rival like Nadal and Djokovic finish with 22, 23. So for me, that has changed a lot in the world conversation.
Yeah, we have a comment from Michael Walker saying that Safin versus Federer semis in 2005 was a better match. Sampras versus Becker at World Tour Finals was also better than Wimbledon 2019. Again,
Wimbledon 2019, in my eyes, is not a match I will remember for the tennis quality.
Exactly, and that's what we already
in my eyes.
Clear, yeah.
It's especially Federer was pretty much at a high level more or less throughout the world match, but it was a match with a lot of ups and downs, and even if we have to be fully honest, Djokovic was amazing in turning out things, but still Federer didn't play the way he should have done in when it was to close the match out. So in my opinion, it's still a memorable match for all what happened, for the scoreline, for the fact that he was it's the only time in history that a player who has a championship point in a Wimbledon final then ends up losing, and so it's more to a statement win in terms of Novak's mental strength and abilities than rather than the actual tennis quality, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I would to Michael's comment. I'm not disputing that maybe those matches were played at a higher level or had had some features that outflank the 2019 Wimbledon final. I'm just talking about it in it's a Wimbledon final. It's the two greatest fast court players of all time, arguably, and just the prestige of it, the aura of it, 1 versus 2, just everything about that match. It meant so much. I'm not saying the quality of the tennis. I thought Novak played poorly. I mean, honestly, he didn't play well. Like, it looked nothing like him from Wimbledon.
I mean,
11,
he said it. He said it in the recent interview.
Yeah, it was more or less something like this year's Wimbledon final.
Yeah,
in my
I mean,
opinion.
he wasn't really. He just didn't look. He lacked some firepower, and really on return. I mean, he missed so many makeable returns. It was just very, I think he was really tight. It was very tense. Obviously, the tension of that match. Again, that's part of it. It's a Wimbledon final. The crowd, the overwhelming favoritism towards Federer. It was more just the mental toughness of finding a way to win. And it's also a really interesting match. We could do an entire podcast just on Wimbledon 2019.
And we will.
So many people say,
For
Federer played
example,
so much better than Novak, but Novak was ahead in that match from start to finish. He never trailed, other than when Federer got the break, deep in the fifth, midway in the fifth set, like midway. I mean, it went 13-12, but when he got that break 7-8, that was the only time in the entire match where Federer was ahead. So, I mean, it's kind of, yes, Novak was terrible. He lost a set 1-6, and he lost another set 4-6 where he actually got a break back to make it a little bit more respectable. But both the second and the fourth sets were, it looked nothing like Novak. I mean, mentally, he was just gone. He was tanking the service games there late in those sets. But he did grind out those tiebreakers and was always ahead. And that gives you the ability to throw away a set, So I don't think people talk about that enough. Like, I don't think Novak played very well, but the notion that Federer was just like, miles better or whatever. I mean, maybe so, but he was behind the entire match, Federer. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, so those would be my 5 seasons when it comes to 6 to 10 rate. So 2012, 13, 14, 18, and 19. What do you guys think overall? And would you slide in a different season?
Yeah, while you were talking, I made basically a ranking. So
I saw you.
I put 10th, 9th, 8th, 7th, and 6th because it was the only way for
Nice.
me to, and all this talk about 2019 just for me to put that as the 10th, in my opinion.
Okay.
For me, it was a disappointing season. In terms talking about good seasons, of course, because when you win Australian Open and Wimbledon, it's still an historic season. And I know that for most Nole fans, this is an important one because of that Australian Open final, which was a great match in Novak's fans' mind, and the 2019 final. But I felt like it was a year in which there were still, comparing to the others, I mean, ups and downs, and the end didn't finish the way it should. Novak started to struggle a little bit against the younger generation, Tsitsipas, Medvedev, before starting to beating them again later. So for me, it was, great season, of course, but if I have to compare to the others, I feel like putting it to the 10th place, while my 9th goes to 2013. But in my opinion, 2012 and 2013, which are a bit similar as seasons, are higher in my rankings just because I feel like between 2011 and 2013-14, the competition was at the highest possible level. And so that makes me, privilege those years a little bit more, even if maybe not the best season in terms of the stats for him to win that Australian Open in 2012. Even 2013, he had some heartbreaking losses, but still, won a lot of titles, ended the season on a high note, between Shanghai and then the ATP finals. And so I'm putting those as 9th, 8th. Then I have what I have. 2014. I put it higher because for me, even if there's been just Wimbledon and then probably US Open semifinal was a little bit disappointing considering what was before the match. But still, it was a season which meant a lot. Novak getting that sunshine double after doing so in 2011. The Rome title, I felt it was a great clay season because of that Rome title and the French Open. And 2014 final, in my opinion, between the final that Novak and Rafa played against each other, was the closest one. I felt like that fourth set was very close and Novak could have really taken advantage of it. Rafa was not feeling anymore 100% in the end. So he was really able to push him. So I put that. And then it may seem, as the sixth, it may seem super, super controversial. None of them will agree. But my sixth season is 2021.
Wow.
Because despite getting just one match short than the calendar slam, I've privileged 2016 and 2018 for reasons that I will explain later. And I felt
Very
that,
nice.
if we exclude that French Open semifinal against Nadal, I felt that 2021 has been probably the slam year in which the competition has been weaker. Comparing to this year, comparing to the year between 2011, 2016. For example, Wimbledon, in my opinion, 2021 Wimbledon felt like more or less like it was due. Even if, it's never like that when you win a Grand Slam. My feeling has been like the competition hasn't been that at its peak, let's say, as comparing to other season. And I'm also trying to get the stats, of course, and also the titles, the numbers, but also the meaning, the importance. And so even if, in 2021, I was feeling like, oh, this is incredible, and this is the year in which Novak is settling maybe the debate. Still now I'm feeling like I have to letting it go and making it sixth place in my ranking.
No, that's fine. Jay, what do you think of Mario's 6 to 10 list?
I think those are valid reasons. I don't think I'd necessarily dispute it. My hunch is if I was going to do a ranking, I'd probably have the 21 season in that top 5. Just because I think
I have to.
Just because I think it, where Novak is in his career. I mean, he's elevating the slams over the other tournaments. It's not the younger version of Novak who was being number one and winning Masters and winning Sunshine Double or something like that was a priority. It's just not the highest priority for him anymore. And I can't really. The fact that he was sitting there 27-0 and chasing a calendar slam, I mean, I don't think that's really been discussed enough in the media. I mean, he was one match away. I mean, a lot of guys, even Novak this year, he won 27 matches, right? There's a very, very big difference from losing a Wimbledon final and losing the U.S. Open final. Like Novak lost that final 100% because of just mental. It's just too much. It's so much to try to win the calendar Grand Slam. I mean, it's such an unbelievable, almost impossible achievement. No one has ever been that close. And I don't know if anyone ever will. We'll see. Hopefully Novak. That's a huge, huge ask at this stage of his career or for anyone. That's the point. No one else has been that close. And that has to matter. That has to mean something. I do understand there was the disappointment of the Olympics that year and, a few other things that maybe didn't quite go his way. But the fact that he was, sitting there 27-0 with a chance to seal a calendar Grand Slam, it's not discussed enough. And, that was the whole story of the entire season to me. I mean, that even though he didn't win it, it was such a special match just to have an opportunity to go for it, and the way the crowd got behind him and everything, it was really touching. He teared up, and it didn't even matter at that point. I mean, we kind of all realized he wasn't going to win. Really, I don't think anybody thought he could turn it around. But it should have been celebrated a little bit more. I mean, how close he was. That's just an unbelievable achievement. And, so that would be the only thing that I would maybe, that would be the only reason why I would maybe slide it into that top 5.
Yeah, plus that comeback win against Tsitsipas in the French Open final.
The French Open was so good. I mean, not just. I mean, there was the Musetti match where he was 2 sets down and looked kind of dead in the water, and then just blew him off the court. Again, the mental aspect of tennis. I think Musetti, it was going to be way too much for him to try to close that match out.
Damn, that's a loud notification.
Sorry about that.
I was like, what the hell? That was worse sound than the bombing I experienced in '99.
Oh my God. I don't know why I feel like that right now. I don't know. Maybe it's also because I'm, given that we are talking about all incredible and exceptional seasons for different reasons, maybe I'm also letting my own perception, how I I felt also about some single wins and some, I don't know, and so I've decided to left this season just a little bit out of my top 5, but I can get, of course, that when you are one match away from winning the Calendar Slam, I think that for all of them it's well inside the top 5. But I don't know. I kind of feel this way.
No, that's completely fine. Jay, would you squeeze in a different year? You mentioned 2008 in the beginning, maybe.
Probably not. Now that we've kind of talked about it, I do think it was special for him to win that first slam, but he'd kind of already shown, in the back half of 2000, actually the whole season in 2007, having won a couple of Masters titles and making his first, Grand Slam final and playing pretty well. I mean, obviously he had six set points over the first 2 sets. So, I mean, it was right there for his taking. Again, talking about the mental side of things, just couldn't quite get over the hump yet. I mean, being 20 years old, it just wasn't quite ready. But then he showed, 3, 4, 5 months later in Australia that he was ready to take that step. So I'm sure, winning your first slam and kind of proving that you can do it was important to Novak, and he would probably think fondly of that. But I don't think the rest of the season would be enough to warrant, inclusion in the, in that 6 through 10 or whatever kind of ranking we're talking about here. So,
yeah, that's true. Okay, let's do top 5 now, going from 5 to 1. So coming in at number 5 for me is 2016. Again, 7 calendar titles. He started the year by winning both Australian Open and French Open finally after all those years, and yeah, the Sunshine Double. But I wanted to say, which made him the first man ever to hold all 4 majors at one point in time. Played finals at the US Open as well.
Wait, since you mean since Rod Laver?
Well, yeah, an opener.
Yeah, no, sorry. Okay, I've got it.
Please.
Was 1969. You're right. 1969 was Rod Laver, right?
Was it 69?
Yeah, that was the second Grand. He won 2, but the first one was in like 62. Before the the Open era. It was the amateur.
Yeah, 69 was in the Open era.
69 was Open era. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but since...
No, never mind. I apologies for my mistake. I thought he wanted them both in the pre-Open era.
I have jumped in just because of my, I was kind of sure of my things, and then I was, but it's okay.
Don't worry, man. It's fine. I mean, Jay knows that. He's kind of been, when we started this, like in the first couple of weeks, He would correct me when I, made a mistake in regards to statistic. And after a certain point in time, he began apologizing. I was like, "Don't apologize, man. Correct me every time that I
but as they are saying in the chat, on 3 different surfaces, it was the first time.
It's silly to even try to start comparing. I mean, the tennis looked very, very different.
Sure. That's right.
No comparison. Not to take anything away from Laver. I mean, phenomenal achievement.
Oh, sure, but it's just because everyone then can jump in and say, "No, you're wrong," because
no, we'll give Rod his due, but tennis was apples and oranges to what we see today in the modern era. So.
Yeah, some other things Mario mentioned already, the Sunshine Double, so Indian Wells and Miami. He also won Madrid, beating Andy Murray in the final. Was 65-9 that year, so 87.8%. But probably the biggest reason why I put it in my top 5 was that French Open victory in the finals, which, I mean, he kind of completed tennis at that point in time, to use the football terminology, when people say Leo Messi completed football last year when he won the World Cup. Everything else was just, an additional, a bonus afterwards. So again, like I said, for 2014 Wimbledon and 2019 Wimbledon, again, I remember vividly. I was actually watching the match at work, so I wasn't working during those couple of hours, even though I had to. Again, one of the most memorable matches that I watched him live. When I say live, I mean on via television. So, yeah, Mario, let's go with you. What's your number 5?
Number 5 is 2018. I have decided to make it into the God.
Mario?
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm back. Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. I've chosen 2018 as the 5th because for me it's been a miracle. 22nd in the world after the French Open, at the start of the grass season, ended the year as the world number 1. For me, it's probably one of the most impossible things ever happen in tennis, because I was still hoping Novak would have regained his level, would have been better, but I would have never ever imagined after the French Open that he would have ended the year as the world number 1. And for me, regardless of the fact that probably from a statistical point of view some seasons have been even better, this one was incredible in all his career, and I think that deserves for me, even if only the 5th, but deserves a spot into the top 5 for all these reasons.
Jay, what's your number 5?
I didn't actually make like a ranking 1 through 5. Hearing both of you guys talk about it, it's tough. When you were talking about 2016, the one thing I would say about 2016 is like that first half of the season. I kind of consider that, like the highest level that Djokovic really reached. I mean, it was like kind of the perfect mix of just supreme confidence, unbelievable, movement, and enough offense to hurt you, so much. That the match in the semifinal against Federer was like the most odd I think I've ever been watching a tennis match in my entire life. He just blew Federer off the court the first 2 sets, and to Roger's credit, he did make a match of it, and the sets 3 and 4 were pretty tight and competitive, the way that most Federer Djokovic matches are. But I don't know if Roger just was a little sluggish with his footwork or something, but some of the shots that Djokovic was hitting in those first 2 sets were just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, just mind blowing. And I mentioned Jeff Sackman earlier in the show. He's got his ELO ratings and ELO system, and other people have come up with their own kind of ELO ratings and rankings, and his numbers confirm that. I think it was right around like Miami Miami or maybe Indian Wells, something like that. Of that 2016 was when he hit his highest ELO ranking, and I think like kind of the what I saw and what I during that time kind of confirms that. I mean, he was just out of this world. I mean, he was on a streak of like 16 consecutive finals, or 16 out of 17 big finals, or just something ridiculous. I mean, it's funny, we're talking about seasons, right? And in tennis, that means a calendar season. But if you just taken Djokovic from mid 2015 to mid 2016, nothing could possibly come close to that. It's just ludicrous. He won everything. I mean, just dominated. So I'd have to have 2016 in that 5. I know that the back half of the season didn't go as well, but I mean, for his standards, I mean, by his standards, but he still won, Toronto. He made the finals of the ATP finals. He made, let's see, what else did he do? That, I mean, it wasn't like it was
won Madrid. He won Madrid again.
Won Madrid.
Yeah,
I mean,
and in the end, he was just one match away from ending the year as the world number 1, because in that final against Murray in London, it was the year and number 1 at stake. Then he lost that match, but it's another speech about Murray that year. So probably Murray was deserving that one also for how the season went on. But you're right with what you're saying.
It was really like the losses in Shanghai and Paris to Batista Agut and Cilic that got and even at Wimbledon, I think people wanted to chalk it up to just kind of burn out, having just won the calendar slam. But I think there was some of that. I think he'd achieved kind of his goals, and maybe he just kind of took the foot off. But there was also some injury concerns that he'd been battling with elbow problems, and at the Olympics he had like a wrist problem, and so it was kind of a culmination of things: mental, physical burnout with some injury problems that led to the 2017 downturn, and then the surgery at the beginning of the 2018 season. So 2016 kind of has that back half concern, but the first half was just so impressive and kind of carried over from the 2015 season that I'd still probably put it in his top 5.
Yeah, not to mention, let's not forget that year he set a record for most points ever.
Right.
And on the ATP tour, I believe it was like 16,750 or something like that. Again,
no one's ever going to come near unless they change the point system or something.
Yeah,
they already have, actually. Very minor tweak, but nevertheless, yeah.
Mario, do you want to add something, buddy? I feel like you want to say something.
And no, because then I will keep going.
Okay.
If we have to to just move forward, we can, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Coming in at number 4 for me is that before mentioned 2021 season. Again, 5 titles. He won 3 Grand Slams, played a final at the U.S. Open. Probably the most heartbreaking year for me as a Novak fan. Both because, first of all, because he lost that final against Medvedev. It was 6-4, 6-4, 6-4. Again, correct me if I'm mistaken, guys. But probably the loss that hurt me even more was that semis loss in Tokyo against Sasha Zverev. Not only because he lost at the Olympics, which still, we talk regularly, especially Mario and me. We talked like 2 days ago, about the importance of Olympics, and would we even be talking about it on tennis Twitter and tennis media if Novak was not the one insisting, how important it is to him and how much he wants to win. But yeah, that loss was devastating for me. The first time I ever cried after one of his losses, again doing it at work in front of dozens of people, which I'm honestly kind of proud of. I'm not embarrassed at all. So yeah, some of the other stuff he achieved that year, won Paris-Bercy as well, season record 55-7, so 88.7%, and again had the most wins against top 10 tennis player on the ATP tour with 14. Again, thank you, Jay, for those stats. Now
Yeah, and became the the man with the most Grand Slams title, because the season ended at 20-20-20 between himself, Roger, and
Roger and
Rafa.
Rafa.
So
Yeah,
he
that's true.
was the record holder, even if just a tied record between
Oh, I actually don't.
all of.
Is that how actually works? The most recent winner in that situation is like de facto
No, no, no,
number.
no. Record holder. I mean, all three were holding the red.
Aha.
The
Okay.
record.
Okay.
I
I
think
misunderstood you. I
I think that
misunderstood you.
it's like that because it's not your fault when you
Yeah.
win.
Yeah.
Um,
What's your number for Mario?
2016.
Sorry.
I've never seen anyone playing better than in that Australian Open semifinal. Never in my life. It was ridiculous. I don't have words to describe, because that first two sets, as Jay were saying, it was incredible. I was starting laughing by myself by some things that he was hitting, he was defending, and he was he was really in god mode. And then it ended in fourth, and the fourth set, that have been the match in the end, but overall the performance was something incredible. And all the first part of the season, I think it's unbelievable, because at some point, imagine till the French Open, and you have won the Australian Open, Indian Wells, and you have won in Miami and in Madrid. And there have been the final in Rome, which have been a strange match, because I didn't expect that to be such lopsided in Murray's favor, but then he won the most important one in the French Open. At the end of the season, still was a finalist in the US Open, the ATP finals. Didn't end as good as everyone was expecting. But in my opinion, overall, also considering the level of tennis expressed, I beg that as the number 4 in my opinion, because at some point he was probably playing at the highest possible peak. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that 2016 Australian Open semifinal, the first set was 6-1, and Novak had 2 set points on Federer's serve in the second set for 6-1 that Federer did hold. So he was, a point away from 2 6-1 sets. I mean, on relatively quick Australian hard courts, like that's just unheard of to see Federer, completely unable, not even close to being able to hold his own serve. I mean, it's just shocking. I mean, it was just literally like jaw on the floor kind of stuff, and like just some of the passing shots that he hit and lobs and defensive. It was just magic. I mean, at least those first 2 sets, and it wasn't like Djokovic dropped off a lot actually in the third and fourth sets. I think we do need to give Roger some credit, because he really dug in and played pretty well in the third and fourth sets, and it was just a couple of balls here and there that kind of determined those sets. But those first 2 sets were just outrageous.
Yeah, even because I don't know if you remember the same as me, but I really have the feeling that in 2015 that match of Federer ended the season on a high note. 2015, in my opinion, and the matchup was in the end of that year was quite complicated, because also I don't know if you all remember, for example, the round robin match, the ATP finals, how Federer have been able, at least tactically, it was getting complicated in my opinion. Even the US Open final was really a difficult match, even if it was a 4th set, not the 5th set, but was really, really complicated. And so in 2016, even if I know how Novak was turning things around in the head-to-head in terms of the numbers, but I was not accepting that kind of things I saw in those first 2 sets.
That's a great point. I mean, we saw two matches between Djokovic and Federer like 3 weeks prior, a month and a half prior to that Australian Open semifinal. At the tour finals, there was a round robin match that went straight sets to Federer, and then the final match that went straight sets to Djokovic. But they also played the U.S. Open final that was really tight, 4-setter, great match, electric match. They played a tight 4-setter at Wimbledon. They played a relatively tight 3-setter at Indian Wells. So every time they were facing off, it was very close and competitive, like almost all of their matchups usually were. So to see that display is part of what, it was without question, who was on the other side of the net was a big factor in me thinking he was playing at such an incredible level. We've seen him play as recently as Turin, right, against Sinner and Alcaraz at unplayable kind of level too. But it's just different, he wasn't the serve, monster that he is now. Back in 2016, he had to do it more from the baseline and with, a bevy of shots and whereas in Turin, he was just acing everybody. Sinner in particular. I think his ace rate was like 27% against Sinner, and that doesn't even
and still, Alcaraz still is not Federer, like doing that against
an indoor hard court
against Federer at the Australian Open.
Absolutely right.
Exactly. It's still, a level above.
No question. Great
okay.
point.
Let's continue. Number 3 greatest Novak season ever would actually be this year. So 2023, we don't have to go far back. Yeah, we are all aware of what he achieved this year. Again, 3 slams, played another final, losing to Carlos Alcaraz at Wimbledon final. He also won the ATP finals for a record 7th time. He won Cincy again. I'm not a tennis expert. I'm not a tennis guy like you guys are, but that was the best of 3 match that I ever watched. I don't know what do you guys think. Maybe you watched even some Novak's better matches at at the ATP tour, but that was by far for me. Again, we have to consider all the factors that led up to that final and let's say consequent. I remember vividly because that was a time when Mario and I started this whole Novak Weekly thing, and we were of course watching the match. It was 3 a.m. here in Europe, and probably the biggest takeaway and the biggest topic that we talked about the most was how would the outcome of this match affect the future of tennis and Novak and Carlos, let's call it a rivalry. So I was really of the opinion, if Carlos won that match, I really believe that Novak would experience something not to the extent of what Roger experienced after Wimbledon 2019. But I really believe, no matter how psychologically prepared he is and how of a mental giant he is, I really believe that loss would affect him. And of course, I didn't even mention the problem that he had with heat. He looked like he was a dead man walking, and for him to turn it around and win it in a way that he did, that was simply breathtaking for me. Of course, the year end, we already talked about it at the beginning. You and I, Jay, talked about a little bit disappointed, especially for us, Serbian fans, because of the Davis Cup and us not winning it. But again, to be able to win Paris and to basically have a hiatus of 7 weeks of not playing tennis at all, and to go back there and win it, and to go to Turin and to win it again by demolishing Carlos Alcaraz in the semis and beating Jannik Sinner, who defeated him like a couple of days before on the home soil. Simply spectacular, and for those reasons, it ranks 3rd on my list. Mario?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that I'm really fascinated by the chat that they are having.
A lot of Martina Navratilova and Williams.
Graf, Williams, and I'm not joking. I'm really fascinating because they are bringing a lot of stuff from the tennis past and comparing it to the present, and it's fascinating. Yet I think that we've spoken about that already. I agree with putting this one as the number 3. Yeah, I basically agree with what you say, so I won't talk for too long. That Cincinnati match, as I always try to say, for me, it kind of feels like another Slam final this year because of what was happening, because having lost Wimbledon. Let's say that probably, even if not the same heartbreaking level, but if we try to compare Wimbledon 2023 with Wimbledon 2019, let's say that Djokovic, compared to Federer, Djokovic has the chance to face again his rival early in Cincinnati. It's totally different, by the way, so not reason making a comparison. And the way he wins it, make it almost, make it forget from a media perception and what was happening in Wimbledon. Suddenly, all the people are again like, okay, Novak is number 1, Kyrgios is number 2. Maybe before was like maybe some doubt, maybe it's changing, the proverbial changing of the guard. It was really important, and then of course winning all these slams and getting the records. What happened in Australia, which of course it felt very emotional. Yeah, great stuff. But so a season for the ages and for differences, especially important. Probably, my opinion, still not quite, even if some people think otherwise, still not at that peak to make me surpass 2011 and 2015.
Yep,
Okay.
I agree, and I would just add a couple more things about that Cincinnati tournament. People maybe have already forgotten that was his first time back in the United States in basically 2 years. It was the last time he played in the United States was when he lost that, U.S. Open final against Medvedev, going for the calendar slam. So it's been basically 2 years. And so that added a whole, extra layer of kind of, I'm sure, pressure for Novak wanting to succeed here after what had happened. So that coupled with, the way that match unfolded, it was the longest 8 Masters final in ATP history, I believe. I mean, at least back to 1990 when the Masters were, dubbed the Masters, or Super Nines or whatever they called them back then. Yeah, I mean, to me, that was kind of the match of the year. I mean, it did. I mean, maybe it's just a coincidence, but the fact that Carlos's season, it maybe had already even started to happen because he didn't play particularly. I believe he played in Canada, right? Now I can't remember, but I kind of think he played Carlos, yeah.
Yeah, he did.
He played in Canada and didn't.
He lost early, I think.
So he did. Maybe the writing kind of was already on the wall, and it was just, it was going to happen anyway. But it sure felt like in the moment, like that was a turning point. Where Novak goes on to win everything, and Carlos kind of didn't win another tournament the rest of the year. So yeah, it was a huge match. I feel like it had kind of like a Grand Slam, feel to it. And the fact that it was almost 4 hours over 3 sets, and the heat and the element of 1 versus 2 and fighting for the ranking and everything, it was a phenomenal match. Definitely one of the top 2 or 3 Novak 3-setters of his career.
Yeah. Okay. Now, probably the part where we're gonna debate, because again, if you take a survey from Novak fan and ask them which 2 seasons are his best, I believe that 90+% people will say 2011 and 2015. But there are some disagreements of which season is actually his best. Some people say it's 2011. Some people say it's 2015. For me, number 2, his second best or greatest season ever, I would put 2011 on that list, which means that for me, 2015 is his best season ever. Some stats. First of all, let's go with number 2. So 2011, 10 calendar titles, finished the year as number one for the first time in his career. Won 3 majors: Australian Open, Wimbledon, and US Open. Again, extraordinary runs in Australia. He beat Roger in the semis and Andy Murray in the final. At Wimbledon, he beat Rafa Nadal in the final, and at the US Open, he beat Federer in that semis, in that legendary match. Another Novak Roger memeable match, and of course beat Rafa in the final. He won 4 ATP Masters 1000. The Sunshine 5, sorry, Sunshine double, including in Indian Wells in Miami. He beat Rafa Nadal in 4 Masters final, I believe. Had a 41 match winning streak. What else did I forget? 6-0 against Rafa that year, 10-1 against Rafa, combined Roger and Rafa. So he lost only 1 to those guys, 1 being against Roger. Against top 10, he was 21-4 that year and finished the year with 92.1%, 92.1 winning percentage for the entire season. So, I mean, extraordinary, but I would still leave it a tad bit short of the number 1 spot. Mario?
Now you know that I disagree, because it's very close. First of all, I have to say so. Of course, it's fair, super fair to say 2015 is the best, because statistically it's for sure the best Novak season. But I see something in the 2011 season that makes me put it at number 1 in my opinion, and 2015 at number 2, because I'm thinking also at what was 2010. The fact that he enters 2011, and at that moment, in my opinion, despite finishing quite a good way, because of course final at the US Open, and then helps Serbia to win the Davis Cup, so ends the 2010 year with let's say in a quite confident way, but doing all that to start 2011 and overall the whole year, even if in the end he was a little bit injured, but remember how Nadal was in 2010. 2010 version of Nadal was something unbelievable, and Novak enters 2011 and beats him at Indian Wells in Miami, and then back to back in Madrid and Rome, which, even if it's not Grand Slams, it's incredibly important, because he beats him in big finals on clay. They are still young, so they are caring a lot about Masters tournaments, and he does that, and then beat him, of course, in the final set, the US Open and the Wimbledon, especially becoming world number 1, and also against Federer, he started having great success, even if he lost at the French Open. But you know, he was coming from a 41 love record, so sooner or later he should have happened. Let's say like that. Maybe not in a Grand Slam, people would say, but we know that slams are the most difficult tournaments. The meaning that season has, and from how it started, and the way he was facing those 2 rivals, basically at their primes, because they were coming off from 5 years of dominance, and still there was also, the competition was incredibly high, because many will remember what a great match was, for example, the Rome semi-final against Murray, which was playing still at a very high level. And yes, he was not having the slam which Djokovic had because of 28 Australian Open, but Murray was quite there, especially the success he was having in Masters tournaments on hard courts, beating especially Federer a lot of times. The tennis landscape was totally different before 2011 and changed drastically after that.
That's true. That is true.
And for me, also because it's like a moment of beginnings, probably a turning point of the whole career. Maybe we can call about that, because we can make a pre 2011 and the post 2011. But for me, that one is the best one of them all. I put them together because when you mention number
Which
two,
one of the two would you put it?
That's why.
Yeah. By the way, yeah. Sorry. Before I let Jay, answer this and give us his answer, I just wanted to read some of the stats from the 2015 season. So, 11 calendar titles, most for Novak all time. Again, finished the year as world number one. In fact, he was number one for the entirety of that year. Again, won 3 Grand Slams. Again, Australian Open, Wimbledon, and US Open. Played final at Roland Garros, unfortunately losing to Stan Wawrinka. In those Grand Slams finals that he won, he beat Andy Murray in Australia, and he beat Roger Federer at Wimbledon and US Open. He won 6 Masters title, which I believe is the record on the ATP Tour.
Those of 2011 where he won 5.
Yeah, those 6 would be, again, the Sunshine Double, Indian Wells, Miami. He won Monte Carlo, Rome, and Shanghai, Paris, which again are kind of 3 different surfaces because we have clay and we have indoor and outside hardcourt. He won the ATP finals again, beating Roger, although I don't believe that year they played the match. I think it was a walkover in the final.
They played twice. Roger won the round robin match.
Which year was the walkover?
The year before.
2014. Apologies for that. Again, one of the J stats when it comes to top 10 wins. 31 top 10 wins. Again, an Open era record that still stands. His record against Rafa, Roger, and Andy Murray that year was 15 wins and 4 losses. And his overall season record was 82-6, which is 93.2 winning percentage. Again, spectacular. And probably, Jay, go on, and then I'll give my thoughts on why do I put 2015 instead of 2011 as a number one, as Novak's greatest ever season.
Yeah, and I have 2015 as number one as well. So I'm the tiebreaker here, Mario. Sorry, buddy. But I don't think there's like a huge difference in like the level of Djokovic 2011 versus 2015. I'll get to some interesting stats on both of those seasons in a second. But the reason why I have 15 above 2011 is pretty simple. If 2011, the best case for 2011 being his best season is that he was 59-2 at the end of the US Open. I mean, I honestly think if he just shut it down the rest of the year, people might have that as his number one season. Going 59-2 and then saying, okay, my back was a little sore, I can't play Davis Cup. I'll just, I'm just gonna rest up until 2012. It'd be pretty hard to argue with that. I think a lot of casual tennis fans kind of think the season ends after the US Open anyway. The non-diehards. That would be what I would point to if I was going to try to argue the 2011 season. But the fact is, he was a little dinged up and he didn't finish the year very strong. And it's what is his best season? It's not his best 7.5 months or whatever. It's his best season. The fact that he won 12 more matches and had the same amount of losses, had 10 more top 10 wins. And I don't think there's like a big difference in the level of competition between 2015 and 2011. I think Federer was probably better in 2015 than he was in 2011. Nadal wasn't, at his top level that year, but he played a ton of matches. He was healthy. I think he played the most tournaments in his entire career in 2015. So, his game was a little bit, he was struggling with his level, I think, in 2015. So maybe that influences people's decisions on why they think the competition wasn't as good. But Wawrinka was nowhere in 2011, and he was at the top of his game in 2015. Murray was still in the mix. So I have to give it to 2015. And then as far as some of the interesting numbers, 2011, this is the 2011 season. The only real thing that stands out in the 2011 season for Novak is that he won 38.5% of his return games. That is by far the best he ever had in his career, by almost like 4%. That's just massive. I mean, tennis is a game of very small margins. The next best year for Novak in return games won is the next year in 2012. He won 34.6. So almost a 4% difference between 2011 and any other season. That's massive. He won 44.4% of all return points. I mean, that's just absolutely insane. So, maybe you could say on return, Novak was even fitter and moved even better, or maybe it was something to do with, the level of competition or what have you. But so that's what stands out in 2011. As far as 2015, what stands out to me is that he held 89.6% of his service games. That is a career high. He won 61.1% of his second serve points. Just to compare with 2011, in 2011 he was at 55.5. I mean, that's almost a 6% swing between his second serve points won in 2011 versus 2015. He won a career high 68% of all break points. Sorry, he saved 68% of break points, 68.2. That's a career high. So I think 2015, like the confidence level of Novak, he was a little bit more, serve oriented by 2015 versus 2011. So again, there's not a huge difference as far as the level, but I think I'd rather have the player that served a little better versus the guy that returned better. That's just a personal preference. I think being more offensive, you have a little more control of things. So like if you're going to try to say the 11 version of Novak's playing the 2015 version, the 2015 version has a little more experience and maybe a little mentally tougher and has a little bit better second serve. That would be the only kind of nit to pick. But both of those seasons are outstanding. Had Novak won maybe one more tournament in the last 3 months of 2011, we might say 2011, but he didn't. And in 2015, he finished unbelievably strong. The 31 top 10 wins, the 82 wins overall. To me, that's the trump card.
Yeah, and Mario is completely correct. I mean, this is not. We're not debating. Which did he say anything correctly or incorrectly? I mean, everything was spot on. Basically, this is a celebration of Novak's career and his greatest ever season.
My explanation is that before this year I was very, very sure that it was in my standing number one, the 2015, because of all the reasons you have mentioned. This year I've become a little bit. My approach have been a little bit more emotional than, let's say, statistical to the matter of tennis and the sport in general, and not only regarding Novak and slams, but generally also in all the aspects. And so I don't know, I'm starting to giving a lot of weight about all what I said before regarding the 2011 season, and especially their biggest rivals, the biggest rivalries of his career, which for me are of course against Nadal and Federer, and for me that year was. And that's my reason. I mean, I basically I can't choose, but if I have to choose in this particular moment of my experience, the emotional part is prevailing on the statistical part of myself.
And that's completely valid. Again, to use my argument, how I usually compare Novak's greatest titles or whatever the most meaningful, I usually go with first or whatever. And the reason why I said it is because this was, like you already mentioned, Mario, the first year where he actually showed, I'm as good as these two guys. But I'm gonna Jay probably knows this. It's a famous Rudy Tomjanovic quote from when they won, when the Houston Rockets won, I believe in '95. Don't ever estimate the heart of a champion. The reason why I said it, I believe, again, this is my opinion, it's easier. It's actually a lot tougher when you're hunted and not the hunter. And I believe that in 2011, Novak was the hunter. He was hunting Roger and Rafa, and in 2015 the script has changed, and he was the one who all the other guys, Rafa, Roger, Andy, and even Stan Wawrinka, were trying to dethrone. And I believe, Mario, you know this, based on football, our football, the reason, for example, not only because they are my favorite team, Real Madrid, but the reason why that 2014 to 2018 iteration is the greatest team in the history of the Champions League is because they are the only ones who not only repeated but three-peated. And I really believe that it's always more difficult to defend the title than to win it for the first time.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Fair. But I'm not changing my mind. That's fine.
That's fine too. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously something very special about Novak 2011 season. Breaking through, becoming number one, winning Wimbledon. I think even Novak himself always talks about how winning Wimbledon and becoming number one at basically the same time. He beats Tonga in the semifinals that year to get enough points to be number one, regardless of what happened. But then consolidating that and winning the Wimbledon final against Nadal. He considers that like the highlight of his career. But he was asked a couple times recently what he thinks, his best seasons were, or if this past year was his best season. And he basically kind of, to me, it sounded like he was like leaning more towards that 2015 season. So I think at least from a statistical standpoint and kind of a experience standpoint, again, just when we're talking about a best season, we're talking January to December. We're not talking, March through February or whatever. If we were, Novak would have a calendar slam, right? Or he'd have the Grand Slam, but nobody, gives him that credit because you have to do it in the same calendar year. So for a calendar year, it's got to be 2015, at least for me.
One thing I've been a little bit disappointed by 2015, but I'm just talking right now from a personal point of view, as I was 13 at that time, so I was far away than experienced, and I was just as a tennis enjoyer and a fan. Is that the first win against Nadal at the French Open? I was expecting that to be different. For me, as I recollect right now in 24, the win against Rafa at the French Open, it's been 2021, because 2015 was like, no way he's losing this match. And so from the how a fan feels a win more, less special. That 2015 win in my eyes was a little bit disappointing as a way to end that curse that was like Rafa at the French Open.
Yeah, by the way, we have a comment from Matthew about your age. Jesus, that's depressing for the rest of us. Alluding to you being 13 in 2015, which I mean, it makes me feel old. It makes me feel old, and I was 20 at that.
But I turned 14 during 2015. Exactly the day of the Wimbledon final.
Yeah, that changes things, right?
I had as a present the Wimbledon final to watch on the television.
Nice. I never get anything for my birthday. It's June 19th. Even when there are World Cup or Euros, neither Serbia nor Portugal usually play on that day. So I have to watch Ecuador and Australia or something like that, which is not that much fun. But hey, it's still the World Cup. Guys, do you want to add something
I've only got another couple of minutes. I actually have to get to bed because Novak's got a match in about 12 hours. I got to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning if I'm going to watch him play against Zhang tonight at the United Cup. So looking forward to that, though. I'll probably miss a little bit unless my alarm is spot on. But looking forward to 2024 and maybe chatting with you guys again, sometime in the next year.
Yeah,
it feels pretty tricky as the first match of the season, right?
Yeah, I agree. He's a big hitter. He's got some game. I hope Novak doesn't take anything for granted and is locked in.
Okay, that would be it for this episode and this year as well. Thank you guys again for all the love and support you shown us during this period. We're gonna take a 2-week break now, but we will come back once Australian Open starts. And we will be back with some changes and some additional content. There will be someone who will be joining us in Novak Weekly as a co-host. I'm not going to say who right now, but we will announce it in 2 weeks' time when we come back. As for content, there will be both short format and long format. Actually, Jay is going to be part of one of those projects with me. We'll start that beginning of February, I believe. Well, actually, I hope after Australian Open finishes, with hopes of finishing the project, pre-production, production, post-production, everything by June, and we will release it once Wimbledon rolls around. You'll be notified about everything on our social media platforms, so make sure to follow us if you're not currently doing that. We'll also be adding TikTok as another medium, so again, make sure to follow us there as well. All the links will be in the description below. Overall, I really believe that you guys are going to like every piece of content that we'll be producing in 2024. Hence, don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn that notification bell on. Like, comment down below, share this. All of those things help us. You guys already know that. And trust me, we really appreciate your guys' help, love, and support. And to finish it off, thank you, Mario and Jay, for doing this. And I'll see you guys in like 2 weeks. Happy New Year. Happy 2 years. Happy New Year. Hey,
appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Happy New Year and happy holidays,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Happy New Year.
Bye.